In this video, I'm going to show you how I'd use my Concertina Sketchbook. I've listed all the supplies and information in the show notes below, and I'm now going to show you what I did with this very interesting architectural style sketchbook. They're also known as zigzag sketchbooks or accordion sketchbooks. So let's get started. There may be other ways of using this type of sketchbook, but I'm going to show you how I did it. I live in Vancouver and the city lies on a peninsula with water on 60% of the sides. To help you understand what I sketched, I'm showing you a map of Vancouver City Peninsula. You can see that there's a lot of coast that wraps around the downtown core, and the rest of Vancouver and the suburbs are to the south and below. So because the Concertina Sketchbook starts on the left and works its way to the right, I'm showing you on this map the red dotted line shows the path that aligns with each of the pages in my Concertina Sketchbook. So I'm actually on the mainland looking out towards the sea, walking along this red dotted line. So first I sketched out the layout for the coast with a 2H pencil. I left room for an open page at the front, almost like a frontispiece, and here I wrote the year and when it started, which was last year, 2024. And I only finished this in this year, 2025, and I'll write the date on the back page there. So as we move around the coast, there are different features on the coast. There's also a seawall, which can be walked around the whole city of Vancouver. And all of these features are often travel spots where people go to, beauty spots, if you will, and things to see on the coast. Now, I didn't pick up absolutely everything, but I picked out the main features. And I just sketched them all out to lay them out across the actual width of this sketchbook. There are several bridges, as you can imagine, connecting this peninsula across to different areas on the North Vancouver side and on the south side. So there's also the Port of Vancouver where all the big container ships come in, and that's further round towards the end of this sketchbook, as you'll see. And you can notice that at the front and the back there's a hard cover, and I've called this the Vancouver Seawall Sketchbook. And to be honest, laying out this sketchbook probably took me a week because I had to adjust things to make sure that I'd got all the features in that I wanted. Next, I started with a black pen. I had three pens I was using, a 0.1 millimeter, 0.3 millimeter, and a 0.5 millimeter. And I then went over the main features with a black pen and added some shade and so on in certain areas to make sure that the main features, such as the bridges and what was happening in the foreground, were in slightly more detail, whereas the mountains at the back, as you're looking across the water towards Kitsilano and so on, they were slightly in the thinner pen because they're further away, and then I tried to use the thicker pen in the foreground to make, because those features are more prominent as you're looking. This again took a while because you can't just do it all in one go, so I actually worked on it for probably 10 days to 14 days to get this ink in the correct way I wanted and make sure I got all of the little elements on the coast sort of in position. I'm also trying to make sure that when you open the sketchbook just to a 2-page, the little vignettes, if you will, move over to they're going round the edge of the page, so you're inclined to want to turn the page further to see what's going on the next page. When I was happy with the pen, I then erased all the pencil across the whole of this sketchbook and just tweaked a few bits here and there, and this went on for quite a while, just so I was happy with the way the pen was on the page with no pencil marks at all. Next I moved on to some coloured inks. I used 3 of my Winsor & Newton, so I had blue, apple green and cobalt, and I mixed those up on my little plate there in varying degrees of colour, and I used this ink to colour the sea on the main concertina. So what I wanted to do was get some colour onto the sea, but just lightly. I wasn't going to do the sky at this point, I just wanted to do the sea, and it did turn out quite blue in certain places, but there was that combination of the apple green in there as well to give it some depth, because the sea is kind of greenish really if you look at it. So when I painted all this kind of took forever, and I had to stand up the concertina here on my table, you can see, because all the pages are now wet. And although this is a watercolor paper, which is great, it still was quite damp and needed to dry. So I stood this concertina up on its end and let it dry overnight, just to let those blues come through. Started with some colored pencils, and I started coloring in some of the features with colored pencils, and you can see this is the whole concertina just laid out there across my chair, across the table. It's quite a long piece, and I continuously work through it with colored pencils, lots of greens on the background, trees and shades and greys and whatnot on the buildings. And I worked on this with the colored pencils for probably, honestly, about 2 weeks. I just kept coming back to it and working on this this book. I'm just going to give you a quick flip through of the main features in this book. So first up, we've got the that's the science world, where I start on the very left. Then we are moving on to we've got the Canby Bridge, we've got the sea buses. Then we're moving there onto, that's Granville Island. That's the little island across the bay there. Next, as we move forward, that's the Granville Bridge, and then we're looking there at the Burrard Bridge, which is really quite a big bridge in Vancouver. Moving on now, we've got the Inukshuk, which I did do a video about. I'll put a link right there. And that's standing there. We then get to the Siwash rock, which is a huge kind of rock that's sticking out just off the coast. And that's where I put the sun in. Next, we are moving on to Prospect Point. This is quite a high tourist area where you can look across the bay, look at the Lionsgate Bridge, which is that next thing that we've got going there. It's the biggest bridge in Vancouver, connecting Vancouver to the North Shore. Next up, I've put in there the Brockton Lighthouse, which is a little lighthouse there on the side, a very distinctive looking lighthouse. Further round, we get the totem poles. These have been here for almost over 100 years. They're indigenous totem poles. Next, then, I'm moving on to the 9 o'clock gun, which is, I understand, shot out every night at 9 o'clock. And then we've got the Deadman's Islands, and these are the float planes that you can fly over the city and get tours that way too. Then we are onto this architectural piece called The Drop. It's a huge architectural art piece on the coast. Many people go and look at that. Then we're getting on to, this is where the cruise liners come in. It's Canada Place. It's where all the big Disney boats and whatnot. And this is where you take your boat to Alaska when you're doing your cruises. So that's Canada Place. Next, I'm moving on. I've got this is the sea bus connecting over across to the North Shore at Lonsdale. And then I've got Port Vancouver, which clearly is way bigger than what I drew, but what can you do? And finally, I end up there with the Ironworkers Bridge right at the very end. So that's how this sketchbook unfolded. And here's a final flip through of the whole sketchbook. I'm Alison. Thanks so much for watching.